Greetings and salutations. My name is Brett Siegel. I am filling in here for the great Gary Franchi on the Raw feed. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space here in Northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and your patriarchy. Now, we are streaming to millions worldwide on YouTube, plus our patriots on Rumble and X. Make sure you're following us on all the big platforms because big tech censorship is real, and if we work together, we can beat it. Now, what makes the Raw feed different? We don't just preach to the choir. We bring you into the conversation. Your live chat reactions, your super chats especially, your Rumble rants, they're all a part of today's show. So fire them up right now, even before we dive into these explosive topics. We will be featuring some of your messages on screen for the world to see between segments. And speaking of history, on this day in 1953, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed for espionage, selling nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union. They betrayed America from within our own government. Does that sound at all familiar? Today, we're exposing another betrayal from within. Unelected bureaucrats who may have literally forged the presidency while Biden wandered the White House halls. We're going to get into some insane autopen stuff. The parallels are absolutely chilling. If you want to support this fight for truth privately, hit those donation links in the description. Every dollar fuels our mission to expose what the mainstream media will not touch. And patriots, if you want to wear your support proudly, check out our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Nothing says I stand for truth like Next News gear. Today's show is absolutely massive. We will be revealing how Trump's one big, beautiful bill will put $14,000 back in your family's pocket annually. We will expose the shocking Autopen Scandal. Did Biden's handlers literally fake his presidency with rubber stamps? We're going to celebrate the border victory. 0 illegals released in May under Trump. We'll show you big food surrendering to make America healthy again. And we're going to analyze Trump's 2-week ultimatum to Iran as their missiles rain down on Israeli hospitals. Now, for those of you ready to take your support to the next level, join our YouTube channel for memberships. Each different tier unlocks exclusive perks, special chat room acknowledgments, behind-the-scenes content, and access to our members-only 24/7 Discord where the real conversation happens. Click that join button and become a part of our inner circle. And it is definitely a tight inner circle. This is where journalism meets revolution. This is where truth defeats propaganda. This is the Raw feed. And it's time to welcome you into the chat room now. Let's see what's cooking. Hello, Brett from Sabrina. Hello to you too. Tom B420 says autopen hearings have started. I'm very much looking forward to that. Mrs. Pothead Kenny says, hi, Breezy. Well, hey there. Got my own. You're not talking to me? Okay. I mean, that could be a nickname for me. Jeremy Olson said, not cooking yet. We're going to get there, buddy. We're going to get there. Pothead Kenny said, Todd, my 6-month membership chat didn't look like it went through live. Dang it. All right, we're going to get Uncle Todd working on that. Okay, let's start off with our trivia question. Which president said, we will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist to Iran, and then secretly sent them pallets of cash? Is it A, George W. Bush, B, Bill Clinton, C, Barack Hussein Obama, or is it D, Jimmy Carter? Okay. Let's start this off with a bang. Okay, if you just tuned in, remember, my name is Brett Siegel, and I'm filling in for the great Gary Franchi. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space in Florida, and we're gonna get this thing. We're gonna get this thing done. Okay. Well, they said it couldn't be done. They said tax cuts for working families were a pipe dream. They said that bringing manufacturing back was impossible. But here's what the establishment doesn't want you to know. There is a massive economic revolution happening right now that's about to put thousands of dollars directly back into your pocket. The Council of Economic Advisors just dropped numbers that should have every American family celebrating. But the mainstream media, they're silent. The Democrats, they're panicking. Because what's coming isn't just another government program. It's the complete transformation of how Washington treats your hard-earned money. And the details will blow your mind. Now, here's a hard truth about protecting what you built. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means $100,000 savings today becomes $50,000 savings by 2031. You see it at the pump. You see it at the grocery store. You see it when you're buying toys for your kids. You see it everywhere. But there's a proven way to protect your wealth. Gold. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. And they make it simple to safeguard your savings with physical gold or silver. No pressure, no call centers, just honest guidance and transparent pricing. Right now, qualified accounts will get a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Visit nextnewsgold.com to learn more. And don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. Now, the one big beautiful bill is not just legislation, it's economic liberation. And the proof of that are in the numbers that just dropped from the Council of Economic Advisors. Now listen closely. The president's team just revealed what is really in this historic package. We're talking about a plan that supercharges the American economy while the establishment loses their minds trying to stop it. Take a look at this clip.
Senate Republicans are continuing to push this critical legislation forward. The One Big Beautiful Bill will drive growth and supercharge the American economy. The Council of Economic Advisors found that the One Big Beautiful Bill will raise take-home pay by nearly $14,000 for a year for the average family of four. The CEA also found that the One Big Beautiful Bill will increase wages as much as $11,000 for the average worker in America. The One Big Beautiful Bill expands the child tax credit and makes it permanent for more than 40 million families with children. And the bill will deliver no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and substantial tax cuts for our incredible seniors. Simply put, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a massive win for middle-class Americans. When nearly 80 million Americans sent President Trump back to this White House, they were doing so expecting these popular policies to be enacted. Republicans in Congress have a mandate to deliver. And President Trump demands they send this historic bill to his desk for signature by Independence Day, July 4th.
Excellent. Nearly $14,000 each and every American. And that's what's coming to your family. Not someday, not in theory, by Independence Day. The child tax credit becomes permanent for over 40 million families. No tax on tips. That's huge. Every hardworking server and bartender can keep what they earned. No tax on overtime. Because when you work harder, you should keep more. You should not be penalized for doing more work. No tax on Social Security. Our seniors built this country and deserve every penny of what they get. And here's what really has the swamp creatures squirming in their boots. The Trump savings account. $1,000 for every American child. Not welfare, not handouts, investment accounts that teach our kids about building wealth, not about being dependent on the government tea. Now, Secretary Turner laid out the vision, and it's revolutionary. These accounts can fund a first home, pay for college, or start a business. Watch how he connects this to the bigger picture of American prosperity. Take a look at clip 2.
The One Big Beautiful Bill is pro-family, pro-business, and pro-America. It helps Americans achieve their American dream. At HUD, we are focused on economic and community development for rural, tribal, and urban communities. Strong families are the foundation for strong communities. And the One Big Beautiful Bill includes purposeful policies to help strengthen the American family. It makes the child tax credit permanent and gives children a Trump savings account with $1,000 in it. This savings account can be used as a foundational investment to later pay for a down payment on a first house, to pay for college, or start a business. The Trump savings account will help chart a pathway to prosperity for American families. The One Big Beautiful Bill will also expand and strengthen opportunity zones, creating more jobs, greater business investment, and more affordable home ownership opportunities for the American people. Opportunity zones have already lifted 1 million Americans out of poverty, attracted almost $90 billion in investment, doubled the number of homes in opportunity zone areas, and created more than 500,000 jobs where our country needs them most. Now we have the once-in-a-generation opportunity to continue this momentum by extending and expanding opportunity zones. The One Big Beautiful Bill will also ensure Americans who can work do so by implementing work requirements. Currently, almost 50% of households receiving HUD funding do not have a single member working. We want to empower able-bodied Americans who use HUD funding to lead a life of self-sufficiency, and that starts with restoring the dignity of work.
Opportunity zones lifted 1 million Americans out of poverty, and now we're expanding them. The old guard hates this because it proves their entire worldview wrong. For decades, they told us that government dependency was compassionate. They built a system where half of HUD recipients didn't have a single working family member. The One Big Beautiful Bill changes that equation. Work requirements restore dignity. Tax relief rewards effort. Investment accounts build generational wealth. Treasury Secretary Scott Bassent reveals something very fascinating about how this administration operates much differently than any of the other ones. And the transparency alone is terrifying to the establishment. Take a look at the clip.
The camaraderie in the cabinet's incredible.
Yeah.
When we have the cabinet meetings, we're getting a lot of business done. And think how transparent President Trump is in these meetings.
It's incredible.
The last one, if it went for 2.5 hours, all but 10 minutes was televised.
Yes.
Yeah. President Biden didn't have a cabinet meeting for 10 months.
Yeah.
If the cabinet wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove him, they couldn't have because they hadn't.
2.5 hours televised. Biden didn't meet with his entire cabinet for 10 months. Of course, they were trying to avoid him because the more time they spent with him, the more they would be complicit in the fact that he was demented the whole entire time. You know, you can't invoke the 25th Amendment on someone you never see. You know, out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Not our minds. But here's where it gets really interesting. Watch what happens when Trump himself explains the bill's passage strategy. The man who wrote The Art of the Deal knows exactly how to get this done. Take a look at the clip.
Now you got to wait on it. Now you're going to need some help. All right. Hey, it's all on you now. So once you get the fire off, it's viral on the internet.
We're looking at the restoration of American pride on a level that we've never seen, that we have not seen in most of our lifetime. This is the biggest flag I've ever seen. And it's something to be venerated. Rainbows up on the White House. Not trying to pander to the LGBTQ. Pure and simple American pride. This is a man who not only knows how to make a deal, but he knows how to put on a show. And this flag flying high represents more than just a symbol. It's a return for national pride, to American pride. It's a return to the stars and the stripes rather than rainbows and gay votes. It's a return to American economic dominance. Now, Senator Bernie Moreno broke it down on CNN, and even they couldn't spin it. No Medicaid cuts for the truly needy. It's insane the amount of propaganda that's on the left. You know, he's going to be putting historic investments into air traffic control, prevention of $4 trillion prevention of a $4 trillion tax increase, funding for border security and our military. All right, let's take a look at this clip.
Because look, here's what we're doing. We're making an historic investment in the nation's air traffic control system. We're adding a child tax credit to help middle-class Americans. We're providing these MAGA accounts, which is investing in children, American citizens. We're preventing a $4 trillion tax increase. We're funding our border, deportation, the military. We're getting rid of the debt ceiling conversation so that we're not facing the prospect of government shutdown. This bill does great things. I'm really proud of the work that the House and Senate's done. And look, it's not perfect because not everybody agrees on exactly what needs to be done, but it's a really, really great bill.
It's a really, really great bill. You know, when senators and our politicians speak so plainly, you know something real is happening. Usually we get this mealy mouth response, but this is actually, you know, this is actually happening. And while all this prosperity builds, look at what's happening to our military readiness. The Navy just met their 2025 recruiting goals 3 months early. More people are signing up than ever. 40,600 future sailors stepping up to serve. Take a look at this clip too.
Today, I'm proud to announce we've met our fiscal year 2025 recruiting goal 3 months early. 40,600 future sailors have signed up to serve in our United States Navy. This is a critical time in history. The world is more complex and more contested than it has been in decades. And our ability to respond starts with our greatest asset, our people. This milestone reflects more than numbers. It reflects the drive of our recruiters, the innovation of our team, and the courage of thousands of Americans who step forward to serve. This recruiting milestone is only the beginning because the challenges ahead are only growing. We're in a new era of warfare where the battlefield extends from seabed to space. To succeed, we must innovate, adapt, and lead boldly. As we mark 250 years of naval service, we're building towards the next 250 years. Those in uniform today are sailing forward, and the next generation is already preparing to take the watch. To our newest sailors, welcome to the fleet, and thank you. Your courage makes it all possible.
I'm quite excited about this, as we discussed at great length yesterday. Who do you want defending you in a war? A Biden's military or Trump's military? Strong economy, strong military, strong America. And meanwhile, the Democrats are in a complete meltdown mode. They have no message, no vision, no solutions. All they want to do is hate on Republicans and Trump and scream, Nazis! They're just Nazis. Completely insane. Watch this brutal admission from one of their own strategists. Take a look at the clip.
You guys are like goading Trump to shoot Americans in the street. Why is that?
Well, I think part of the problem is we don't have an agenda right now. And, you know, winning campaigns focus on the real lives of real people with effective leaders and something positive to say. And we have none of the above. I think what's so frustrating is Kamala Harris tried this playbook. She tried calling him a dictator. She threw everything she could. She did the rally at the Ellipse to try to remind people of January 6th. And voters said, and for my life, I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about immigration. We don't want to talk about those things. The immigration rallies, I mean, the protests we had, you had some people protesting that ICE shouldn't exist. Some people protesting that he took over the National Guard. Some people protesting that we're being too rough on the bad hombres, right? But no one was proposing ideas to solve the problems that people care about. You know, you just talked about Donald Trump's thing at McDonald's. This last week, we should be having town halls with local ag workers and people in hospitality. We should be having rallies with local hospitals in rural areas. Instead, Chuck Schumer yesterday has a big press conference on abortion. Right?
Abortion? Oh, my
not
God.
That it's an unimportant issue, but it's not top of mind
but
for
it's
voters.
not really the issue. So what are...
We don't have an agenda right now. I mean, did he just say the quiet part out loud? I mean, we knew that for a long time, you know. I guess at least he's honest about that one thing. You know, while Trump delivers $14,000 to families, Democrats hold press conferences about pronouns. This is what winning looks like. Are you tired of winning yet? Personally, I'm not so tired of winning. You know, we're talking about real money in real pockets for real Americans. By July 4th, the one big beautiful bill becomes law, and by next year, you see the difference in your bank account. The establishment said that Trump couldn't deliver. The media said these numbers were impossible. The Democrats said working families would suffer. Well, they were wrong about everything. Again. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. Now, here's the controversial question of this segment. Should able-bodied Americans on government assistance be required to work? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments below, and I'm going to get to... Oh, look at this. We've got some super chats. Thank you so much, guys. You know, while the establishment rages against prosperity, we're building a movement that cannot be stopped. You're going to want to show your support with exclusive Next News Network merch. Check out our shop linked in the description. Every purchase sends a message. America First isn't just a slogan. It is our future. Now let's see what you have to say in the chat room. There we go. From Kibbs Ellis, my SSDI is as much as I used to make in 1 week as a stylist. Nice. We've got some super chats from Juan for $10. The new Gary looks sexy. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Hey, beautiful new guy. How much to make you dance? $10. All right. Actually, there's another $10. Look how I know. Look, I know you are seeing my messages, but you're playing hard to get, and I love it. Here we go. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. This is my Trump dance. Millennium Man 75. Ha 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 ha. That's right. That is some funny stuff. I love this N3 army. You guys are doing it. You're bringing in some of the cash. We're going to pay for Gary's NATO trip. Of course, I will be here holding down the fort in his stead. I will be here holding down the fort in his stead while Gary goes to NATO, and we'll be corresponding with him overseas. Brad 47 says, young man. Millennium Man 75 said he's got the attitude too. No, you do. Now let's see. Okay. All right, let's get cooking. Now, if you are just tuning in, my name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi. And of course, I always broadcast to you live from my safe space where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. Now, what if I told you the president of the United States actually hasn't been running the country? What if every executive order, every bill signed into law, every presidential pardon was all a lie? Now, this isn't a conspiracy theory when it comes to our old president, Joe Biden, and I mean our previous president. We know he's old. Legal experts just testified under oath about evidence so explosive it makes the Watergate scandal look like jaywalking. Now, we're talking about the systematic hijacking of presidential power by unelected bureaucrats. Cabinet members literally avoiding the Oval Office just so they don't have to acknowledge the elephant in the living room, which is that our last president was completely and utterly demented. You know, documents signed without the president's knowledge, a constitutional crisis hidden in plain sight while the media looked the other way. The testimony you are about to see will shake your faith in everything you thought you knew about our government. But first, gold has always been the go-to safe haven during inflation and global uncertainty. And right now, prices are soaring to all-time highs. That's why smart investors are looking at Opawika Explorations Incorporated, trading on the U.S. market under the ticker OPWEF. Opawika is a gold exploration company operating in the legendary Abitibi gold belt of Quebec, one of the richest gold-producing regions in the world, responsible for over 190 million ounces of gold from more than 120 mines. Their flagship properties, Bazooka and Arrowhead, are surrounded by multi-billion-dollar players like Yamana Gold, and they've just kicked off a massive 20,000-meter drill program across these primo sites. And who's backing them? Legendary gold investor Eric Sprott, who invested $1 million of his own money, a clear validation from one of the most trusted names in the business. With strong infrastructure, proximity to proven minds, and leadership from CEO Blake Morgan, a third-generation miner, Opawika is strategically positioned for discovery. Shares are currently trading at around 11 cents, but with exploration underway, the upside could be absolutely explosive. Now, visit opawika.com to see their latest presentation. That's OPAWICA.com. That's opawika.com. Now, the testimony that just dropped on Capitol Hill should terrify every American who believes in constitutional government. You know, we're not talking about political games. We're talking about the complete usurpation of presidential power. Theodore Wold, a constitutional expert, just laid out evidence that will make your blood run cold. Listen to his opening statement about how unelected bureaucrats may have literally stolen our last presidency. Take a look.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning about how the cover-up of President Biden's mental decline endangered America's national security and undermined the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution vests executive power in a single person, the president. At the founding, the president exercised the executive power through only a small group of trusted advisors and personnel. In fact, President Washington had a 4-member cabinet. Today, the president directs a Leviathan executive branch with 15 cabinet departments and at least 4 million full-time executive branch employees. The executive branch proliferation has a single source of democratic legitimacy, that by order of U.S. Constitution's Article 2, the president is both elected by the American people and vested with the executive power, all of it. Traditionally, the president takes positive actions and authenticates those actions through his signature. His signature is required for the most significant actions he may undertake: to sign an executive order, to take any action invested in him by the Constitution, as in granting a pardon, and to take the most important action of all, to sign a bill into law. In all these cases, the president's signature is itself the protection of democratic principle. When the president signs, he communicates his assent and endorsement of the action he takes.
Yeah, the president's signature itself is the protection of the democratic principle. When that signature becomes a rubber stamp in the hands of White House staffers, the republic is basically dead. You know, we're looking at an empty suit. No, here's what they don't want you to understand. The Autopen, a device that mechanically reproduces the president's signature, can legally be used, but only when the president personally directs it, only when he makes the decision. But what happens if when a cognitively impaired man for president, what happens when he can't make those decisions? Democrats tried to dismiss this with legal technicalities. Watch Wald destroy their defense. Take a look.
A number of your colleagues on the Democrat side have said, well, there's an OLC opinion here. We don't need to talk anymore. There's an OLC opinion. It says you can use the Autopen. The opening paragraph of that OLC opinion says you can use the Autopen, but only when the president directs that you do so under his decision-making power, right? It is very clear again and again that the president actually has to make the decision. That cannot be delegated to a staffer or an advisor. And there's no indication here that anyone other than staff were making these decisions.
The president actually has to make the decision. That's why he was ostensibly elected president, okay? This cannot be delegated to staffers or advisors. Yet there's no indication that Biden made any of these decisions at all. And this goes deeper than signatures. Now think about what we're witnessing. We're witnessing a manifestation of narcissistic entitlement at the highest levels of government. Staffers who believed their feelings and ideology superseded constitutional law. They didn't just bend the rules. They shattered the fundamental compact between the people and their elected leader. Senator Josh Hawley understands the gravity of the situation. Watch him demand the documents that will prove this conspiracy. Take a look.
In the policy paper flow to the Oval Office, there should be a record of what documents are presented to the president when and when he gave his assent to the actions that are listed in those documents, whether it's a judicial nomination or it's a statutory response to Congress.
Well, I think the answer is we need to get those documents. And I just say to our friends in the media over here, you guys need to be asking for those documents, and we need to be asking for them, Mr. Chairman. We need to see those documents.
I'm just sitting here imagining Joe Biden wandering around the White House with a little string attached to his arm, like Weekend at Bernie's, like with the sunglasses, and he's like, we need to see those documents. The paper trail exists. The question is whether anyone has the courage to expose it. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. Senator Ted Cruz, one of my favorite senators of all time, asked the question that should chill every American to the bone. This is some really good stuff. Take a look.
Mr. Wald, let me ask you as a legal matter, if there's a law that's passed both houses of Congress and it goes to the White House, and a staffer autopens signing that law without the president's authorization, is that law legally passed and signed into law?
No.
If an executive order is issued and a staffer autopens it without the president's authorization, is that executive order legally binding?
No.
And if a pardon is issued from the President of the United States and a staffer autopens it without the president's authorization, is that pardon legally binding?
No.
This is peak Ted Cruz right here. He absolutely is a master at getting to the bottom of the issue right here. And this is the bottom of the issue. Was anything done during the Biden administration? Can we even consider it to be laws? Laws, executive orders, the pardons, all potentially illegal, all potentially null and void. 4 years of governance that might not even truly legally exist. The pattern of deception runs deep in Democrat history. And this isn't their first rodeo with hiding presidential incapacity. Take a look at this.
Look, I mean, if you go back through our history, Senator, so Grover Cleveland, Wilson, FDR, JFK, President Johnson, President Biden, it's almost a Democrat sport to keep from the American people the health and acuity of the chief executive. They've been doing this for a long time. But this is of another level, especially as Mr. Spicer was mentioning, the complicity of the national media in obscuring this, but also that cabinet officers would go to the lengths of avoiding interacting with the chief executive because they were fearful that they would have to speak to his diminished capacity.
This should make everyone extremely mad. But I mean, are we really surprised? I don't think this should make anybody surprised. What we're witnessing here is the political expression of the cluster B, emotional, erratic, the cluster B pathology, where mental, emotional, and psychological dysfunction become institutional policy. We're talking laws that we all have to live by here. The cabinet members who avoided Biden didn't just fail at their duty. They exhibited the classic cluster B trait, the narcissistic trait of avoiding reality that challenges their constructed narrative. Watch this extremely damning revelation about cabinet members literally hiding from their constitutional obligations. Take a look.
I will say the 25th Amendment, it's a modern contrivance, but it still is consistent with American constitutional tradition, which it assumes that officers of the United States will act virtuously and morally. And the idea that members of the cabinet would go to the length of avoiding the Oval Office so as to abdicate their responsibility to verify the appropriateness of the president's acuity or the ability to authenticate actions taken by the president. If that's not a constitutional scandal, I mean, honestly, I don't know what would constitute such.
They knew. They all knew. And they chose to cling to the ring of power over any sort of principle, especially the principles that govern this country, the principles embedded in our Constitution. Now, Senator Eric Schmidt connected all the dots in a speech that should be required viewing for every single American. Take a look at this next one.
In the realm of culture, the regime censored free speech, closed down churches, targeted traditional Catholics and parents at school board meetings, and let an unelected class of left-wing radicals degrade, attack, and lie about our history and our heritage. A poisonous anti-Western, anti-American ideology that had once been confined to elite university classrooms suddenly became the official White House policy. All of this was done not in isolation. It was sustained, defended, and covered for by an alliance of elite institutions, from the media to the so-called expert class to big tech to the federal bureaucracy itself. When we speak of collusion among elites, or the so-called deep state, we're accused of being conspiracy theorists. But this was no theory. It was plain and overt, out in the open for everyone to see. For 4 years, we had a president who could barely string together coherent sentences after 6 p.m. Yet, this glaring fact went unreported.
This isn't just deep state theory. You know, they want you to stand in disbelief of your lying eyes. I mean, we all could see the president, you know, and this monumental effort to keep this a secret, the secret that we all knew, the secret that was out in the open. You know, this is classic narcissistic personality disorder, but institutionalized on the grandest scale that you can think. The grandiosity that you have to believe that you can run a presidency without a president, it's amazing. It's staggering. You know, the entitlement to think that constitutional law simply doesn't apply to you. You know, the lack of empathy for the American citizen, the American people, the people that you are deceiving. You know, they created a Potemkin presidency, a facade maintained by bureaucrats who believe their ideology mattered more than our votes. That's abuse. Every policy, every decision, every action taken in Biden's name is potentially fraudulent, and each and every last one of them needs to be looked into. This Autopen scandal isn't just about mechanical signatures. We're not talking about formalities here. This is about mechanical governments by an emotionally and psychologically dysfunctional elite who turned the White House into their personal playground while a confused old man wandered the halls. But pardon me, I don't want to speak ill of the dead. If you got value from this report, please tap subscribe. You know, this is bigger than Biden. This is about a ruling class so consumed by narcissistic entitlement that they believed they could fake a presidency and that we would never notice. They wanted to pull the wool over our eyes. And they treated the Constitution like toilet paper and democracy like it's a suggestion. For 4 years, America had no legitimate president, just puppeteers pulling strings while the media played along and just completely went along with it. Now, here's a controversial question. Should every Biden official who knew about his incapacity and said nothing be prosecuted for treason? Yes or no? Light up the comment section. You know, the Autopen scandal proves what we've always suspected. The deep state isn't hiding anymore. They're bragging, the braggadocio. They turn mental dysfunction into standard operating procedure, emotional instability into policy, and constitutional fraud into an agenda. You want to fight back? Support real journalism. Grab your next news gear from our description. Check out the our President Autopen t-shirt. Every purchase funds the investigation they desperately want stopped. The truth is out. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Now let's see what you have to say in the chat room. There we go. You tell us to light up the comments, but the comments are up. But I'm so sorry, Eek Blom. We're working on that. I see comments. Orchard Flower 2. What could Americans do? You're absolutely right. I mean, we were pretty much helpless for 4 years. Pothead Kenny. I love my N3 hat and shirt. Yeppers N3 for life. Yes, N3 for life. That's right. Tom B420 sauerkraut. Yes, I think that might have to do with something that might have gone. Mark Severance said, "Lock them up." I couldn't agree with you more, Mark Severance. Pothead Kenny said, "Brett, you are rocking it." Yeppers, I do truly appreciate that. I truly appreciate the support. You know, we're trying to rock and roll. We're trying to make sure that everything, the fort is held down in Gary's stead, and we're gonna continue rocking it for the rest of the week and all next week. Now, if you just tuned in, my name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi on the Raw feed. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in Northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. Zero. Not one. Not a single illegal alien released into America last month. Zero. Not a one. While the media obsesses over manufactured outrage, the most stunning border transformation in American history just happened right under your nose. We're talking about 93% drop in illegal crossings, violent gangs dismantled, hundreds of weapons seized, enough fentanyl to kill 250,000 Americans taken off the streets. But that's not even the biggest story. What's happening in sanctuary cities right now has Democrats in full panic mode. Local governments are flipping out and citizens are rising up. The rule of law is returning, and the cartels, well, they're not too happy right now. They're on the run. They're on the run. They're on the move. The footage you're about to see proves one thing. When you actually enforce the law, miracles can happen. I want you to keep watching. Now, when cities burn and order collapses, smart Americans protect what matters most, their wealth and future. This is why savvy investors turn to BioTrust's ageless multi-collagen during chaotic times. While rioters destroy businesses and property, our property values plummet, and this powerful formula helps preserve what time and stress try to steal from you: your youth, vitality, and your confidence. 5 types of collagen sources from 4 premium sources, hydrolyzed for maximum absorption. No GMOs, no artificial ingredients, just pure rejuvenation. Because when society crumbles, your health becomes your greatest asset. Visit healthwithgary.com today for 51% off. That's healthwithgary.com. Invest in yourself while others invest in your destruction. The numbers just dropped and they're making history. For the first time in modern America, we achieved the impossible: complete border control. Well, not necessarily impossible, it's just no one's tried until now. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt delivered the statistics that have Democrats scrambling for excuses. Now, this isn't spin. This is mathematical proof that Trump's America First policies work. Take a look.
President Trump's powerful efforts to secure our homeland are working. According to newly released numbers, last month, Border Patrol saw a 93% decrease of illegal aliens crossing the southwest border between ports of entry from May 2024 under Joe Biden, when they encountered more than 117,000 illegal aliens. And this particular statistic is absolutely astounding. In the month of May, under the Trump administration, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country by Border Patrol. Let me say that again. Not a single illegal alien was released into the interior of the United States of America last month under this administration. Let's contrast that to Joe Biden's failed leadership, where immigration officers were wasting their finite time and resources processing dangerous illegal aliens for release into the United States. President Trump immediately terminated that reckless Biden-era practice that undermined the rule of law, jeopardized public safety and our national security, and diverted critical resources away from stopping deadly drugs and violent criminals from entering our country. That's the reason why not a single illegal alien was released into the interior of the United States in the month of May. And as a result, we now have a border that is reaching unprecedented levels of operational success.
This is incredible. You know, they said it couldn't be done. They said it was racist and all that, you know, racist, bigoted, and homophobic, et cetera, whatever. Under Biden, 117,000 illegals poured in monthly. Under Trump, they're all going home. But the transformation goes beyond statistics. Operation Showdown in Fort Worth just delivered a masterclass in law enforcement. Watch what happens when you actually let cops do their jobs. Take a look.
Law enforcement agencies say neighborhoods across Fort Worth are a whole lot safer tonight after an aggressive operation to combat violent crime. Caroline Vandegrift looks at the impact.
Our intention to reduce violent crime in Fort Worth, Texas. And we did it together.
Areas of Fort Worth with high crime rates were targeted in a 2-month initiative called Operation Showdown. 76 people were arrested on firearm and drug crimes.
Many of the individuals arrested in this operation are convicted violent felons. Others are in our country illegally and have suspected ties to the Venezuelan transnational criminal organization Tren de Aragua, also known as TDA.
287 guns were confiscated.
One firearm seized during the operation was found to have been utilized in a shooting just 3 hours before it was seized. 3 firearms were connected to homicides.
More than 22 kilos of cocaine, meth, heroin, and fentanyl are now off the streets as well.
And with the amount of contraband seized here, it's very apparent that there are some neighborhoods where parents can freely let their kids maybe have an afternoon play date out in that front yard or in that apartment complex parking lot or community area without fear that a drug transaction is transpiring just a few parking stalls away.
That's quite a bit of booger sugar. 76 arrests, Venezuelan gang members, enough fentanyl for 240,000 deaths. That is what winning looks like. And the left's response? Pure histrionic personality disorder in action, theatrical displays, emotional manipulations, shallow arguments designed for attention rather than any sort of solution. Now watch this 9-hour meltdown in Miami as they desperately tried to stop local police from enforcing federal law. Take a look.
What a scene outside City Hall in Miami yesterday before a vote to deputize its police officers with federal immigration powers. Hundreds of people waiting in massive lines to have their voices heard at a meeting of the city commission. It lasted more than 9 hours, with nearly 100 residents speaking against a policy they say does not reflect the character of their city.
Miami is a city of immigrants, of survivors, of people who love this city and call it home, even when it doesn't love them back. You have the power to protect the people, not to punish them.
Shame on you if you choose to harm a community that has built this city.
ICE's complete disregard for the Constitution and civil rights is something the city of Miami has no business getting involved with.
I urge you all to vote no, because your first priority should not be the approval of the current administration. It should be to the people of the city, to the quality of our lives.
Don't pass 287G. But if you do, don't pretend that this is still the Magic City. Do it all the way. Strip it bare. No more cafecito windows. Shut down Versailles. Pull the roosters out of Little Havana. Erase the Cuban walk on 13th Street. Tear down the Cuban monuments you just restored. Knock down the Freedom Tower. Because if you pass this, you are voting to erase the very soul of this city.
Given the strong opposition, did it surprise you that the measure passed? And were you surprised by just seeing those lines?
I wasn't surprised by seeing those lines. That was a great speaker, and he's absolutely right when he says Miami's a city. I mean, you have Little Havana, Little Haiti, Little Bahamas. I mean, I could go on.
All right, this is my hometown. I was born in Miami. I was born in South Miami Hospital in 1982. Okay, and let me tell you something. We're keeping our cafecitos. We can get rid of illegal immigrants and still keep our cafecitos. There are plenty of legal immigrants who live there who are still willing to make us our cafecitos. This hyperbole reveals their desperation. When you can't win with facts, you just start performing. This guy, what a putz. He's sitting here trying to say, well, you know, if you don't have illegal immigrants, well, then you can't eat tacos anymore. And what are you going to do without tacos? You know, here's what they don't understand. Americans are done with the emotional blackmail. We're done with it. It doesn't hit like it used to. It used to be when you call someone a racist or a bigot or a xenophobe, you get a little shaken up. I don't want anybody to think of me like that. But we know it's emotional blackmail. But we're tired of it. We're done with it. It doesn't land the same anymore. It doesn't land the same way as it used to. It's a card that they overplayed. Now, Charlie Kirk just destroyed one of these bleeding hearts with simple logic. Take a look.
You want to come up here and talk? Come on up, tough guy. Come on.
Sorry, man. I was just saying that's a Nazi America.
To return people that break into your country back home?
Because like mass deportation really just is like cleansing the land.
No, it's not. It's restoring the law.
Yeah, man, but law is not a moral compass.
Yes,
like
it is.
Justice is greater than the country, greater than money, greater than God. Justice is the human universal.
Justice is not greater than God. What are you talking about?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You're tripping, bro.
Hold on. So let me ask you a question. If someone breaks into your country, what should the punishment be?
I was going to give you a different question, man.
Well, I just answered. It's very simple. You said we're Nazi America, so tell me, if someone breaks into the United States, what should the punishment be?
I wouldn't say it's breaking in most of the time, dude.
No, it is.
I would say, like, I mean, dude, because, like, if other countries are economically bad and they're coming here, like, they want to come here
Doesn't
and
matter.
work.
If someone goes and robs a 7-Eleven, you don't get like a lesser penalty if you're broke. What is wrong, regardless of your socioeconomic status.
I get you, man. No, I get you. But, like, law is not a universal, like, thing.
No, they are. No, that's not correct. We believe, as Christians and in the West, in an axiological truth, which that every human being has written on their heart some form of right or wrong. It is inherently wrong to steal other people's stuff. It's inherently wrong to walk into people's homes uninvited. It's inherently wrong to go after somebody and harass them or whatever. So it's a universal law that you don't get to go places where you aren't invited.
Justice is greater than God? I mean, you can hear him sort of bumbling around. I mean, I really admire Charlie Kirk for, even in the moment, just taking these people like slightly seriously enough to like give them a moment to speak. It sheds more of a light on them. Who does this guy think created the only species in the known universe that conceives of higher concepts like justice or right or wrong? If someone breaks into the country, what should the punishment be? It's a totally reasonable question. And the kid had no answer because leftist ideology isn't built on logic. It's built on feelings. Now, I keep saying this, and I will say it again. This is classic narcissistic grandiosity as some sort of like half-cocked political philosophy. They don't believe in God. They think they are gods. See, leftists see themselves as being greater than the Almighty himself. Talk about an unstable identity. No human is illegal. That's a mantra. Emotional volatility. Any enforcement of the law is Nazi Germany. They're Nazis. I mean, look at the manipulative behavior. Using children as human shields for criminal activity. I mean, when someone tries to take away my tacos, I'll get really upset, okay? That's where you cross the line. Flood the border, bring in drugs, kill millions of our citizens, enslave a whole bunch of children. Don't take my tacos, man. Meanwhile, Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries exposes their true priorities. Watch him literally put illegal aliens before American citizens. Take a look at the clip.
And the proposed cuts to Medicaid, the largest cuts being proposed to Medicaid in American history, are unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And together, we're going to do everything we can to stop them.
Unconscionable and un-American to stop giving taxpayer Medicaid to illegals. Narcissistic entitlement, narcissistic grandiosity on steroids. Now, you hear a lot about, well, who's gonna pick our strawberries? Who's gonna do the jobs that Americans don't want to do? It'll be a body blow. If we get rid of all the illegal aliens, it's going to be a body blow to the American economy. This reminds me of Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. When George was talking to one of the yard guys, and he's talking about his brother Lenny. He says, "I'm going to do my best, Gary Sinise." Well, he's so damn dumb. He don't know he got no rights, but he's sure as hell of a good worker, strong as a bull. I used to have a lot of fun with him. I used to play jokes on him because he was too dumb to take care of himself. He was too dumb to even know that a joke had been played on him. I had fun. Made me seem goddamn smart alongside him. I mean, he'd do anything I told him. If I told him to walk over a cliff, he'd go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while. No, he never got mad about it neither. I beat the hell out of him, and he was just, this guy could bust every bone in my body and with his bare hands, but he never lifted a finger against me. So I turns to Lenny, I said, jump in. And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. Damn near drowned before I could get him out. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I told him to jump in. Yeah. Leftists think that we're too dumb to remember that they're the ones who got us into these problems in the first place. They are the ones draining our bank accounts in the first place. They think we are too dumb to acknowledge that the only reason we have programs like Medicaid and Social Security in the first place was because of dependency brought on by older Democrats, people who took their playbook directly out of the Communist Manifesto. You know, maybe more Americans wouldn't need to be on welfare programs in the first place if they would just leave us alone and stop crippling our ability to make money the right way and to care for ourselves. You know, maybe we need to stop being so forgiving to the people who got us into this mess in the first place. Liberal, Democrat, commies. Now, just to put this in perspective, I want you to check out FDR, the liberal, the saint of liberalism, FDR, talking about a new Bill of Rights, basically parroting the Communist Manifesto. Check it out.
In our day, certain economic truths have become accepted as self-evident. A second Bill of Rights, under which a new basis of security and prosperity can be established for all, regardless of station or race or creed. Among these are the right to a useful and remunerative job, the right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation, the right of every farmer to raise and sell his products at a return which will give him and his family a decent living, the right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom, freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad, the right of every family to a decent home, the right to adequate medical care, and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, the right to a good education. All of these rights spell security. And after this war is won, we must be prepared to move forward in the implementation of these rights to new goals of human happiness and well-being. For unless there is security here at home, there cannot be lasting peace in the world.
There you go. This is basically the birth of our entitlement state. Free education, free home, free healthcare, the right to a job. That's straight out of the Communist Manifesto, you know, like we pretended to work, they pretended to pay us. Free everything. Free from the fears of old age. Now, listen, these are not the rights that we conceive of in the Constitution. Our Bill of Rights is chock full of negative rights. There's negative rights and positive rights. Negative right is something that someone is not allowed to do to you. The freedom of speech. The way it's worded is it should not be hindered. It should not be infringed upon. Someone is not allowed to take that away from you. But when you talk about positive rights, a house, a job, a paycheck for your crappy widget to sell for more than it's worth, an education, these are positive rights. And that means that in order for you to get it, in order for it to actually be a real right, someone actually has to give it to you, which basically means enslave your fellow citizen. Now we're sitting here, you know, we sit here sometimes and we don't necessarily, we're a little too deep right now to just sort of take it all out from under the rug at this point. But austerity should not be a four-letter word. We should be able to at least discuss how to moderate these things, how to moderate these entitlement programs for all of our benefit. And the very first thing that we can do is stop giving it away to people who aren't even citizens, who don't even contribute to society. And when we talk about a contribution, we're not talking about undercutting, other people's business, by trying to like price people out of the market, and then send back all your remittances to Mexico or wherever. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about doing it right. And this is step one. Let's take a look at this next clip.
Well, I don't think it's much a reversal, Stuart, but I think what the status is right now is we continue operations on farms and hotels. However, we do it in a prioritized manner. A lot of worksite enforcement operations are based on criminal information, criminal investigations, such as forced labor, such as trafficking, and such as tax fraud and money laundering. So we'll still do these operations, but they're going to be based on priority, just like our at-large criminal operations based on priority. Criminals first, national security threats first, but when it comes to hotels and worksite enforcement operations, we prioritize them and put the criminal operations first. So they're not off the table, especially when it comes to a criminal investigation.
This is common sense that, after so many years, it seems revolutionary. I am from Miami. I don't support what these people think. Miami has been overrun. It's got a really bad traffic problem. Miami is a beautiful city. It's a little bit hot and muggy, but it's a beautiful city. Now I can't even go down there. Hialeah is like the armpit of South Florida. Okay, this is common sense that's making its way back into our American vernacular. Now, this president's mandate is clear, and Homan is executing it flawlessly. This guy is an American badass. This guy is so cool. He talks so fast, so decisively. I couldn't have picked a better man for the job. We're not doing mixed messages anymore. We're not talking about xenophobia. It's not xenophobia to lock your door at night. It's not xenophobic to close your windows and protect your kids. Take a look at the next clip.
No, it doesn't worry me. I mean, the president got elected on two things: securing the border and running the deportation operation. Historically, look, we can't send a message to the whole world. You can enter this country illegally, which is a crime. You can have your hearing at great taxpayer expense and lose and get an order removal. But don't worry, we're not looking for you. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix the immigration problem. There has to be consequences. We gave millions of people due process under Joe Biden. Let millions of people in. They said, I demand due process, I demand to see a judge, and they had that right. But 90% of them lost. So the immigration judge says, you lose, you must go home. If we don't execute those orders, Stuart, then what the hell are we doing? You might as well shut down the immigration court, because the immigration court doesn't mean anything anymore. Take the border patrol off the border, because there's no consequences. We're national laws, we got to enforce those laws.
If we don't execute the orders, then what the hell are we doing here? Exactly. That's exactly right. 90% of them lost their cases. I'm sorry, maybe this is just me. Maybe this is a little bit crass, and maybe a little callous too. But you lost your right to American due process to waste more of our time and money when you came here illegally. Does that make sense to you? Blow up the chat and tell me what you think, because that feels right. That feels right to me. What we're witnessing here is the death of progressive narcissism's immigration chapter. Like this is totally insane, totally narcissistic that you would even find anything questionable or reprehensible about what Tom Homan is doing. For decades they tried to weaponize our empathy. We are an empathic and compassionate people, but they have turned law breaking into virtue, and they've made American citizenship basically worthless. And I was doing a man on the street one time, and I was asking people I was asking people about building the wall, and they said, we can't build the wall. We can't build the wall, because people are trying to leave America. They're trying to go to Mexico. And I said, so should we build a wall to stop them from leaving? Sort of like the Berlin Wall. And to be honest, that's what happens when you turn a thriving democracy into a communist hellhole. They're literally exhibiting classic cluster B traits, these grandiose claims about human rights while actually ignoring the human beings being killed by fentanyl, this antisocial behavior in Tren de Aragua, people harboring criminals, these histrionic performances at city councils, throwing bricks at our law enforcement. But reality has a way of correcting itself. You know, when mothers can't let their kids play outside because of drug deals, when fentanyl kills more Americans than Vietnam, when violent gangs terrorize entire neighborhoods, the emotional manipulation stops working. Now, I am old enough to remember what it was like being in Miami when I was a kid back in the 80s, the early 90s. You could actually take your bike and ride somewhere. We went all the way to Key Biscayne, and that's a pretty long ride from Kendall. That's a pretty long ride from Pinecrest. We were just kids. You couldn't do that anymore. I wouldn't let my kid in the front driveway without supervision in this day and age. Not in Miami. Is that what illegal immigration brought to Miami? Like a steady sense of fear? Oh, but we need cafecitos and taquitos. You know, zero releases isn't just a statistic. This is a declaration by our president. America exists, borders matter, laws have meaning, period. This was such an overwhelming mandate that, I mean, I imagine how many people are celebrating. I mean, they literally have to get histrionic and start crying on the floor in fetal position in order to express themselves because they don't have arguments. Their arguments don't work. What else do they have other than histrionics? You know, the days of putting American citizens last are over. Now, if you got value from this report, please tap subscribe. Check us out. You know, zero illegals released. That's not just a number. This is a revolution, an immigration revolution. For years, these emotional tyrants told us that border enforcement was racist, xenophobia. Walls are immoral, except for in every other country that has them. You know, did you know this? And you can look this up. Did you know that America actually sends money to other countries to help them build walls to secure their border? Yet ours is supposed to be porous. We help build other countries' walls and defenses, but we're not even supposed to have one for ourselves? That doesn't make any sense. We have a right to exist, and we have a right to protect ourselves. I keep on imagining what these people's, you know, like dream house is. It's just a roof with no walls. You know what happens to a roof with no walls. No walls, no pillars, nothing to hold up the roof. That's what they want. You know, they use textbook manipulation tactics, guilt, shame, histrionics, theatrical hysteria to keep our borders open while Americans died from fentanyl and gang violence. Not happening anymore. So here's a controversial question for you. Should sanctuary city officials who harbor illegal alien criminals be charged as accessories to their crimes? Yes or no? Blow us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the chat. Jeremy Olson comes and goes, sucks big time. I hope you feel better too. Some of us aren't feeling great today, but we still show up. That's what our N3 Army does. Even when we're not feeling it, we still show up and display our patriotism. Let's see, Linda Swilly. None of them give a crap about we the people. They're too busy trying to kill us. That is absolutely right. I'm 100% on board. I'm telling you, like, what's incredible is that more people are not, that more people haven't been awakened to it at this point. You know, we're obviously on the right side of history. Our boy, don't miss my super chat, Brett. Don't worry, I will never ever miss your super chat. And what I need is one of those cool tip buckets and that money so that I can do what Gary does and start popping popping bills, you know, because we're making it rain over here tonight. This is really great. This is really great, guys. Jareem says, much love. We appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. Okay, let's see. R. Boyd, born in Hialeah, raised in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. Been there, done that. Same here, and thank you so much for that. Yes, I saw that. That is an excellent point. And so that's you and I we were basically neighbors, man. You were basically neighbors. All right, we've got that up on the screen. Thank you so much for that super chat. Born in Hialeah. Sorry about my comment about Hialeah. That's actually the best thing there is highlight. That one actually came from my mom. She goes, I don't want to go to Hialeah. It's like the armpit of South Florida. But we still love our taquitos. We still love our cafecitos, and every league and believe me, the best. There's a lot of great food down there, and I think that even when we deport all the illegal immigrants, there's still going to be a lot of legal immigrants ready to make us our cafecitos and our tacos. Okay. Now, the border crisis was never about compassion. It was about power. This is working on the scroller. Other way. Yeah. So give us just 1 sec. We're having a little tiny technical difficulty. So, all right. Trump just proved what we always knew. You know, when we stop apologizing and start enforcing, our problems disappear. Now, you can support the fight for American sovereignty. Check out our Next News merch shop, link below. Every purchase says, America first isn't negotiable. The invasion is over. The restoration has begun. All right, let's start the next story. All right, let's do a couple super chats for just another quick second. Can we chat just for a quick moment with our folks here? All right. What about the workers? I need my vegetable pickers and nannies. Who's going to clean my toilets? From overeducated SP. Duty makes the best enchiladas. Loyalty to truth. 1776. That's very, very funny. Beer battered fish tacos are absolutely heavenly, with some pico on top, says Duty to Rebel. Let's see what else. I'm going to Sabrina's to eat. That sounds awesome. Should send some our way. I'm with you, Tom, says Pothead Kenny. I'm with you too. I just want to take a minute and give a really loud, powerful shout out to my little baby brother, Todd, who is over here producing the show and crushing it. Can we show Todd some love in the super chat? What do you guys think about Todd? Todd is the man, and of course Brian is over here making sure everything is absolutely going off without a hitch. What do we think about Uncle Todd? Todd, overeducated SP, says Todd, and I see 4 hearts. Todd, loyalty to truth 1776 is amazing. Brand 47, Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Todd is a very hard worker from Sure You Gospel. Yes. Pothead Kenny says Todd, 100%. Lots of emojis. 888, Todd is the man for sure. And we are going to our fourth story here. Shout out to Todd, y'all. Toddy too hottie. Toddy too hottie. Our boy, thank you. If it weren't for Todd and Brian, where would we be? We would be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. We'd be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Keep it going. Keep going. Keep going. Hold on. Back. No more. More. All right, we're coming back. Okay, there we go. All right, we're back. Now, if you just tuned in, my name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi on the Raw feed. You know, I always broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. You know, they poisoned our children for profit. They turned food into chemicals. They made obesity normal and sickness profitable. But something incredible has just happened. The giants of big food are waving their white flags. General Mills, Kraft, major chains, all suddenly removing toxic dyes and chemicals from their products. Why now? Because a revolution is coming that will expose the biggest health scandal in American history. We are talking about Medicaid fraud so massive that it dwarfs any financial crime ever committed. And this is one of the reasons why our economy has been in shambles, because we're spending way too much money on this stuff. We're about to reveal how 50% spending increase funds laziness, not healthcare. How big food and big government created a sick, dependent population on purpose. And the surrender has begun, but the real battle is just starting. Keep watching. Now, just like big food poisons us for profit, our educational system has been poisoning young minds. But there is an antidote. The Tuttle Twins magazine teaches real kids economics, liberty, and responsibility through comics and activities that make learning fun. While schools push progressive narcissism, teaching kids that they are victims who need some sort of government salvation, Tuttle Twins shows them that they're capable individuals who think for themselves. No emotional manipulation, no identity politics, just truth about free markets, personal responsibility, and values. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And this is why you need to arm your kids with real knowledge. Subscribe now for just $56 per month at TuttleTwins.com/next. Don't let them be indoctrinated. Teach them to think, not what to think. Now, the surrender is stunning and sudden. After decades of poisoning Americans, big food just blinked. Watch this Fox News bombshell that has the processed food industry in full retreat.
Big food brands are making changes to their products as the Trump administration pushes to make America healthy again. So take a look. We start with General Mills. They're removing artificial food dyes from U.S. cereals and the foods that they send to our schools, K through 12 schools. That's going to happen by next summer. This is going to happen by the end of 2027. They're removing all artificial dyes completely by the end, like I said, of 2027. They make Trick cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cheerios, Rice Chex, the things that are probably in your pantry. Also, Kraft and Heinz, they're saying goodbye to the artificial dyes by the end of 2027. Includes Jell-O, Capri Suns, Kool-Aid, and Crystal Light. Then the In-N-Out Burger, they removed artificial dyes from strawberry shakes and pink lemonade, and they replaced it with the beet juice and turmeric instead. Their focus is on the red 40 and the yellow 5. Also, the high fructose corn syrup, they're replacing that with natural sugar. Then let's take Steak and Shake. Instead, they're using the beef tallow fat. We've heard RFK Jr. talk a lot about this. Instead of the vegetable oils to make their French fries, their onion rings, and their chicken tenders. And the tallow fat, it's still unsaturated, but it is a lot healthier than the heavily processed seed oils. Then all the spices in your cabinets. McCormick, many of those in my cabinet are made by this brand, working to remove artificial food dyes and sodiums. Their focus is on the red dye number 3, which has been linked to cancer concerns.
General Mills, Kraft Heinz, In-N-Out Burger, all removing artificial dyes and high fructose corn syrup. They're scared, and they should be. They know they've been negligent. This isn't corporate responsibility. This is corporate panic. They see what's coming with RFK Jr. and the Make America Healthy Again movement. For the first time in history, we have leaders who understand that toxic food and toxic politics come from the same source. Narcissistic corporations and bureaucrats who believe that their profits matter more than our health. But removing dyes are just the beginning. The real revolution is happening at News Nation, where they're exposing the welfare food complex that keeps Americans sick and dependent. Take a look.
Food. Let's talk about that. It's all around us. You know this, from the supermarket to the vending machines at work, at school. The availability and convenience make it pretty hard to avoid altogether. But the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says those tasty treats are often linked to certain chronic illnesses like heart disease, number of different cancers. But President Trump's new U.S. Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who Dr. Stroman and I were just talking about, and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, they want to change that, starting with government programs like SNAP. Joining me now is News Nation Weekend anchor Anna Koyman. Anna, what exactly are they proposing here?
Hey there, Marky. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody at home. Brett Trump's USDA chief says the Make America Healthy Again Commission will consider banning junk food and sugary drink purchases with food stamps. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says the SNAP program for low-income families really needs to prioritize healthy food options instead. The problem is, as we know, here in America, a lot of these so-called healthy options are actually really expensive compared to the cheap, ultra-processed foods that are often purchased. And accessibility to these healthier options is a real problem in poor communities. Now, the SNAP program, it's enormous. If you want to check out these numbers, according to the USDA, last year, 41.7 million people received SNAP benefits, and it cost taxpayers nearly $94 billion, each person receiving about $188 each month. So the problem is a lot of these dollars trying to go towards fresh fruit and vegetable wouldn't go very far. And there are currently at least 2 bills in Congress about SNAP benefits, Marky. The first one would ban them from being used on junk food items like cookies, cakes, pies, sodas. We know what they are. The other bill, though, is more about finding ways to improve nutrition and diet quality for these recipients. And Marky, another economic argument for this ban is that taxpayers are, in a sense, kind of paying twice, paying for the junk food up front and then essentially paying for the medical care as well, because these junk foods often cause chronic disease.
That's an interesting point to make. I mean, you can see both sides of the story. You have to have enough food to eat, but the healthy food is a little bit more expensive. Now, what do you think it is that makes it so expeditious to just put a bunch of garbage in our food and not give us the good and not let us buy the good food? We're talking about the exact same kind of world that FDR was talking about before. This is straight up communism versus capitalism. The regulatory state is so wild. The regulatory state is so vast. The amount of unfunded liabilities, they're just they're so absolutely insane. It's almost like people don't necessarily even have a choice. We're talking about 41 million people on SNAP benefits, $94 billion in taxpayer money. And what do they buy? They buy poison. They're going to get you from the top, they're going to get you from the bottom, and they're going to get you from the sides. And this is the dirty little secret, is that the system is designed for dependence. They want you unhealthy and lethargic and tired and fatigued. Create cheap, addictive food that's nutritionally empty. That sounds like the recipe for a very compliant population. Especially when they have no choice but to put their hand out and say, "Please, sir, I want some more." If you trap poor Americans in this cycle of sickness and dependence, you can't act surprised when healthcare costs explode. And then, of course, they want to blame us. Total projection. narcissistic, antisocial projection, blaming us for problems that they started. This is the conscious manipulation of vulnerable populations for profit and power. No remorse, no empathy, no accountability, just fat, poisoned children. You know, and this endless gaslighting about food deserts and accessibility, as if, you know, don't take away our sodas. Don't take away our sodas. You know, we wouldn't be trying to stop people from getting the things that they want. I mean, obviously we have to put better ingredients in our food. It's no wonder everyone always says, well, the pizza in Italy tastes much better than the pizza here. Well, why is that? You know, it's not that the regulatory state is completely all bad, but a lot of this stuff has been banned in other countries for this very reason. Maybe there's a reason why some things just taste better in other places. You know, that's in the water. Dr. Oz just dropped a truth bomb about the Medicaid explosion that perfectly illustrates this manufactured crisis. Take a look.
We are responsible for adjudicating about $1.7 trillion to CMS. That's twice the size of the defense budget. It's massive. Puts a big target on our back. There are massive efforts by foreign governments and, domestic thieves to steal money from the programs. We have got to clean up the fraud, waste, and abuse. The changes that the House bill has, and they're very wise ones, are the ones that are going to allow us to use these programs to protect our vulnerable. Because when they steal money from these programs, they're stealing from our most vulnerable. This is the most ambitious health reform bill ever in American history. It's imperative that it passes so people like me can actually keep CMS running smoothly.
You know, when they steal money from these programs, they're stealing from our most vulnerable. But here's what he revealed next that should enrage every taxpayer. Take a look.
How can you be sure that the vulnerable enrollees who depend upon Medicaid will continue to get it? You say that you want to protect them. How can you make sure that they will be protected?
I took this job to do just that, protect our most vulnerable. And yet the plans that I've been asked to preside over, Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act exchanges in particular, are not stable programs. Medicaid spending has increased 50% in the last 5 years. And a major driver of that are the able-bodied individuals who joined the program, and half of which these individuals don't work, and many of them could work. I actually think work is a good thing in general. The economy needs more people to work. We've got twice as many jobs as our people seeking them. But in particular for Medicaid, the problem we run into is if we allow able-bodied individuals on Medicaid to get a 90% match from the federal government, states game the system. So let's go over the several accusations that I heard in those several packages. First off, we already know what happens when you take people off Medicaid. We just did it for the last 2 years. Under the Biden administration, 15 million people were disenrolled from Medicaid. 15 million. The uninsured rate went up about 10%. Went up 1.5 million people. So the vast majority of Americans, and I have confidence in the Americans' people, if you give people a chance to work or volunteer, participate in your community, go get an education, or lose your insurance, they take the job over that. And so the estimates that we're seeing are made by economists, but it's a behavioral analysis. It's a psychology analysis. Will you take the deal?
Look, this has been going on for quite a long time, so we're not going to necessarily be able to stop this on a dime. But this shows some of the ways that leftist Democrat policy has injected itself into society over many, many years. We've seen 50% increase in 5 years. Half of able-bodied recipients don't even work. You know, this isn't healthcare. You know, they're just trying. This is vote buying with your money. This Make America Healthy Again movement threatens the entire scheme. Work requirements restore dignity. Nutrition standards protect our children. Accountability measures expose fraud. The One Big Beautiful Bill includes all of this, and the establishment is absolutely terrified. Now, think about the psychological profile here. For decades, progressive narcissists built a system where feeling entitled to others' money became totally normalized. You can't take away our stuff. You know, working became optional, where poisoning yourself with junk food became a subsidized right. Classic cluster B behavior, grandiose entitlement, emotional manipulation, complete disconnect from consequences, no empathy whatsoever. They turned SNAP into a corporate welfare program for big food. They're basically subsidizing these gigantic corporations who are poisoning us. The taxpayers fund the poison, and then they fund the medical care for the poisoning. It's genius if you think about it. I mean, if you're a sociopath, it's criminal if you have a conscience. But the awakening has begun. When major food companies voluntarily remove toxins, they're basically admitting guilt. I don't think you're going to see many of them admitting guilt. They're just going to probably quietly scurry off into the night and take their poison with them. And hopefully we see a gigantic increase in just the energy of this country. Maybe kids will actually be able to go outside once and for all. When they scramble to reformulate products, they're confessing to decades of deliberate harm. And I wouldn't be surprised if some lawsuits are coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some accountability coming. RFK Jr. understands something fundamental. You cannot have a healthy republic with a sick population. You can't have strong families when children are basically being poisoned from birth. I'll never forget the day my son was born. Very first thing out of their mouths was, "Do you want us to stick him with these needles?" And they started trying to stab him. And I said to these nurses there, I was like, "You stabbed my son with that? I stabbed you with that. You take that poison away from my boy. He just got here. Leave him alone already. And stop stealing his money. He hasn't even stinking earned it yet." You can't have productivity when half of your workforce is disabled by preventable diseases. The Maha Revolution isn't just about removing dyes or banning corn syrup. It's about breaking through this narcissistic delusion, this psychotic delusion that corporations and governments know better than parents about what their children should eat. It's about destroying this emotional manipulation that equates food standards with cruelty. Somehow it's cruel. Insane. Somehow it's cruel to not poison people. How does that? It's not only completely lacks empathy, it lacks logic. We have to end these histrionic performances, this performative theater, where any attempt at health is fat phobia. Oh, you're just afraid of fat people. I mean, maybe if one were to sit on me, that would be scary. But nobody is afraid of fat people. And going to the gym doesn't make you afraid of fat phobia. I'm more afraid of being fat than I am of other fat people. Real food, real health, real consequences for those who poisoned us. And that is what's coming. Now, if you got any value from this report, please tap subscribe. I'm going to give you my final thought. They fed us poison. They called it progress. They created generations of sick, dependent Americans and called it compassion. Big food and big government formed this unholy alliance where they just subsidize each other. It's this weird circular kind of thing where one provided the toxins, the other subsidized the healthcare, the other subsidized the purchase of the healthcare, and it's just this big circle where we keep getting sicker, we keep needing healthcare, and guess who pays for it? The American taxpayer. And now we're supposed to give it to everybody around the world? That just doesn't make sense. Classic narcissistic abuse. Harm you, profit from your suffering, and then gaslight you about who's responsible. Now, here's your controversial question. Should food stamp recipients be banned from buying soda, candy, and junk food with taxpayer money? Yes or no? Let's hear it in the comments. I know this is going to be a little controversial. Everyone needs a little help once in a while. I don't think anybody is going to disagree with that. They used to have fellowships before this entitlement state. They used to have fellowships and organizations where citizens would get together and they would help each other out, and they would create these large communities where no one ever went hungry. Everyone always got what they needed. Now, if you are a philanthropic person, that is a good feeling. That it touches on one of the cornerstones of charity. But it's not charity when they're literally taking it from you. Now, even a charitable person, even someone who is totally charitable, let's say they have their paycheck pillaged every month. You don't know where the money's going. You don't know where your effort is going. How charitable do you think you're going to feel? It's no wonder that we don't see a lot of these around. We see a lot of them in the church. We see a lot of Christians doing it. We see a lot of philanthropy all over the country. But do we really see a lot of libs doing this? Do we really see that? I don't really think we do. Now, show them you're done being poisoned. Grab your next news gear from our shop below. Every purchase supports the health freedom movement. Now, let's see what you have to say in the chats. Ooh, chats. I like chat. This Sabrina, the circle jerks. You're absolutely right. It's completely insane how this is it's like a self feed. The system feeds itself. 888, a volcano erupted in Indonesia. Thoughts and prayers to our Indonesian brothers and sisters. Robert Lockhart, so long as we govern our nation by the letter and spirit of the Bill of Rights, we can be sure that our nation will grow in strength and wisdom and freedom. Dwight D. Eisenhower. But I think you're absolutely right. I think it's kind of funny that, how FDR completely changed the nature of this country. Like, he basically removed the founding principles and turned us into just a bunch of whiny babies with our hands out saying, like, please, I want some more. And then not just that, but like the narcissism to say that you're entitled to it. That's why they call them entitlement programs. Like the narcissistic aspect is right there in the name. Okay, let's move. And if you guys are just tuning in, I am Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi, sitting in the big boy chair, putting on my big boy pants. I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy, and I broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida. 2 weeks. That's all Iran gets before President Trump makes a decision that could reshape the Middle East forever. While Biden's handlers played autopen games, Iran was busy building nuclear weapons and an arsenal that has punctured through the Iron Dome. That's Biden's fault. While Democrats are obsessed over pronouns and gay flags and mastectomies for teenagers, Iran missiles slammed into Israeli hospitals. Now comes the reckoning. Trump just drew a red line with a deadline. And unlike Obama's imaginary red line, which was porous like the Democrats want our border to be, this one is coming with consequences. We have the military capability to end Iran's nuclear program in hours. They know it. We know it. The question is, are they going to blink? And the footage you're about to see shows a president who means business, a regime in panic, and American strength returning to the world stage. The countdown has begun. Keep watching. Now, let's be honest. Most guys think their testosterone is being drained by aging, bad genetics, or maybe even a lack of exercise. But what if I told you that that's not the real reason? In fact, the real culprit is something you're likely eating every day. And here's the shocking part. It's something you've always been told is healthy. This one food has been scientifically shown to destroy testosterone levels, and most men have no idea. It's not junk food. It's not sugar. It's something more unexpected. And just eating it a few times a week is enough to tank your testosterone, kill your motivations, and leave you drained. But here's the good news. Cutting that one food could change everything. The team at Sculpt Nation created Test Boost Max, a formula with 8 powerful natural ingredients that help support and restore healthy testosterone production without injections, prescriptions, or synthetic hormones. They've helped thousands of guys build muscle, burn fat, reignite their energy, and get their drive back the natural way. And right now, you can watch their free video that explains everything. What this food is, why it's hurting you, and what you can do today to take control of your body. Just go to sculptnation.com/NNN. That is sculptnation.com/NNN. Watch the video and get the facts. make the change. Test, boost, max is for men who still believe in strength, discipline, and taking charge of their health. No prescriptions, no BS, just real results. Now, the clock is ticking and Iran knows it. Trump just delivered an ultimatum that has Tehran scrambling for the world, and the world literally just like with their jaws dropped watching. Now, this isn't Obama's pallets of cash or Biden's complete fecklessness or wandering around not knowing what the hell is going on. This is American strength restored. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt delivered Trump's message with the gravity it deserves. No games, no ambiguity, just clarity. Take a look at this clip.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
I love how we just have no idea what he's going to do. Everyone's like, what are you going to do? Tell us when you're going to do it. Tell us where you're going to do it. Tell us what bombs you're going to use. Tell us the exact time of the strike. And of course, he knows that the entire world is watching. So he's basically just like, I don't know. You'll see. Talk about the art of the deal. You know, he did give them a deadline, but he seems to have some tricks up his sleeve. I am confident. Are you? Blow us up in the chat if you are confident in President Trump's ability to negotiate this situation, because this is huge. You know, the president himself made it crystal clear. Iran's nuclear ambitions end now, one way or another. Watch him explain what should have happened versus what's about to happen. Take a look.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
Look, they had their chance to do it the easy way. Now they do it the hard way. You know, I love how he's sort of like this shakedown. Like, it's just such a shame. He's like, it would really be a shame if something were to happen to your fine establishment, your whole country. You know, but this is what happens when you replace progressive narcissism with actual leadership. We're not apologizing for it anymore. You know, no more believing that feelings trump facts, that weakness prevents war, or that appeasement brings any kind of peace, especially when they are literally trying to kill you. They want to blow us off the face of the map. They said it. They say it all the time. They don't want peace. They're going to get a piece of our infamous American attitude, but like, you know, Trump understands something that emotional children and Biden's administration never grasped. That strength prevents conflict. You know, I have to tell my son sometimes, you know, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. And the whole world is listening. The whole world is watching. Listen to him explain the stakes with the clarity that terrifies our enemies and reassures our allies. You know, and at the end of the day, speaking of my child, I get a lot more out of him when I'm more authoritative rather than when I'm being a little bit more permissive. And if we have to look at our enemies like this, then, you know, as just children, so be it. Take a look at the clip.
What's your message to Americans both here and abroad who are not only concerned about the U.S. potentially getting involved in another conflict in the Middle East, but worry about the potential for retaliation here at home?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. And I think they were a few weeks away from having one. And they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it now. It was a fair deal. And now it's a harder thing to sign, you know. It's a lot of water over the dam. But, it's very, I say it very simply, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Too much devastation. And they'd use it. I believe they'd use it. Others won't use it, but I believe they'd use it. So that's it. It's very simple as far as I'm concerned. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
No delusions, no wishful thinking, just cold, hard reality. The capability question isn't even a question. America has the most advanced military technology in human history. Now watch Trump acknowledge what everyone knows, but few are going to say. Take a look.
The destruction or the dismantling of the Fordow nuclear enrichment center, is that a prerequisite for a deal? Is that a red line for you?
No, it's just something that people talk about having. We're the only ones that have the capability to do it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it at all. We have the best military equipment in the world. You see that with this fight. We have planes that are undetectable, flying around like, nobody's able to see them stealth. You guys want to be stealthy tonight. You can be stealth and never lose, right? But these are incredible planes and weapons. We have the best weapons in the world, by far. Nobody close. And certain countries take advantage of that. Israel has incredible weaponry. So we'll see what happens. I've been asked about it by everybody, but I haven't made a decision.
We have technology that makes their most powerful weapons look like BB guns. We have precision that makes their bunkers into tombs. Rubber baby bunker busters. But here's where Trump differs from the warmongers and the peaceniks. He's not eager for conflict. He doesn't want this. He's prepared for victory, but then that's a huge difference. All right, take a look at this next clip. Okay. We're looking for a total and complete victory. There's no ceasefires, no frozen conflicts, no nuclear Iran, period. And while Trump draws red lines in the sand, lines that matter, look at what Iran is actually doing. The Israeli Defense Forces just documented their latest war crime. Take a look at this next clip.
Early this morning, an Iranian ballistic missile directly hit the Soroka hospital in Beersheba. This hospital serves over 1 million Israelis, including Bedouins, Jews, Christians, and Arabs alike. Iran targeting civilian centers with ballistic missiles is no surprise for us. They have been openly declaring their desire to destroy the state of Israel for decades now. These aren't just words. Over the past 6 days, Iran has launched over 450 ballistic missiles and hundreds of UAVs. This is exactly why we cannot and we will not allow this regime to obtain nuclear weapons or expand its missile arsenal. And so, we continue our operations, striking Iranian nuclear weapons facilities, missile launchers, and military sites. Iran targets civilians. We target an existential threat that endangers global security. And we will prevail. Thank you very much.
See, this is the difference between us and them. They target hospitals serving over 1 million civilians. These are the people who want nuclear weapons. The progressive response to this crisis perfectly illustrates their cluster B narcissistic psychopathic pathology. Watch Tim Waltz engage in classic borderline splitting, literally unable to hold a complex thought, defaulting to emotional reasoning and questioning America's moral authority while Iran murders civilians. This is crazy. Check it out.
The situation in Gaza is intolerable, and it became a central focus in the campaign, and I would say rightfully so. Human rights issues, how we're going to try and attempt to get a two-state solution where we can allow folks to live peacefully and coexist and have their own self-control or self-determination. The issue now in the spreading of this, and I have to be candid with you, I was there during the debates and I voted for the Iran nuclear deal. I think it was one of the most and I said in there, just to be clear, with the Russian ambassador, with the French ambassador, with our negotiators, with everybody who was there to bring about a the capacity to stop Iran's nuclear capacity, but in a way that was not so punitive that we would hamper some of their economic growth. I truly worry now. I'm sure there's great strategic thinkers in the Trump administration that have now said, how is this going to, a tweet from the president today said, I told them they should have done something, and now here we are.
What a putz. Who holds the moral authority? This is coming from an ideology that think morality is completely subjective. They don't believe in morality in the same way that we do. Right and wrong, facts of reality, those are all negotiable things that just depends on the circumstance. But the answer to the question is, since he asked, we do. The answer is we do. Always have, always will. But Waltz doubles down on the dysfunction, actually suggesting that China should mediate. This is a histrionic performance at its worst. Theater, hand-wringing, while people are dying. Take a look at this next clip.
Iran has to retaliate in their mind, I'm sure. And now, who is the voice in the world that can negotiate some type of agreement in this? Who holds the moral authority? Who holds the ability to do that? Because we are not seen as a neutral actor. And we maybe never were. I don't want to tell anybody that. I think there's a lot of people that say you always leaned one way in this. But I think there was at least an attempt to be somewhat of the arbitrator in this. We saw President Carter do it with Begin and Sadat. We've had certain wins along the way that were actually mutually beneficial both ways. Now I ask who that is. And I mean, consistently over and over again, we're going to have to face the reality. It might be the Chinese.
Death to America. Death to Israel. It might be the Chinese. From watching that video, I cannot tell who he thinks is the good guy or the bad guy here. Apparently, he thinks that we're the bad guys here. Even while these people chant death to Israel, death to America, we are the bad guys somehow in this guy's mind. The Center for American Progress, he is the child of FDR. We watched that video before, but this is a child of FDR, of their entitlement policies. They're policies that completely lack empathy, that they side with the communists. They always side with the Nazis. The communists killed more people in the 20th century than any time before or since. And he's the one who's he's the one asking who has the moral authority. Not you. What a putz this guy is. Blow up the chat. Is Tampon Tim a putz or what? Now, and then there's a CNN contribution, pure antisocial manipulation disguised as analysis. Watch this grotesque display of religious bigotry and historical ignorance. Play the clip.
The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he's a rapture prepper. This guy's waiting for the rapture, just like Ted Cruz is. So you have this whole sect of MAGA that they support Israel because they want the Jews to be in Israel so that Jesus can come back for the rapture. And that's a very real thing that's in Congress. And that's not foreign policy. That's magical thinking.
So, Alex, what do you think about this?
I support Israel for religious purposes. But I also don't believe the United States should be in a prolonged conflict. There are a lot of Christians in this country who support Israel who would say, let's be judicious. I understand that. But the point I'm making is
that shouldn't be a foreign policy.
But a lot of people can separate their religious views from foreign policy decisions. And so I wouldn't, to castigate a negative against people who have religious views. All I'm saying.
What a smarmy, snarky, self-congratulatory lady. You could see her pandering, and you can see this self-congratulatory smile on her face, and she's like, oh man, this is fire commentary. Rapture preppers. That's why we're going into Iran, because we're preparing for the rapture. That doesn't even make sense. If we were preparing for the rapture, we would just let them bomb the world. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make logical sense. And she's sitting here smiling she's like, yeah, this is fire commentary. Sweet. This is so fire. And this black guy, and of course, she's probably like sitting here trying to pander. And of course, this black guy is sitting here saying, well, actually, I do support Israel. And then the look on her face is like, you're not supposed to say that. You know, they mock Christian support for Israel while Iran builds nukes. You know, this is contempt for anyone who dares to hold moral convictions, to anyone who truly believes in objective reality. You know, and here's what the emotional infants don't understand. This isn't about religion or politics. This is about preventing a theocratic death cult from obtaining weapons that could kill millions, if not billions of people. It's about choosing strength over clarity, clarity over confusion, and victory over appeasement. Now, Iran has 2 weeks to choose. President Trump, he doesn't know what he's going to do. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. That's part of the deal. Part of the art of the deal. You know, they have to surrender their nuclear program or watch their country turn into glass. No negotiations with terrorists, no rewards for aggression, no more American weakness inviting global chaos. Trump's red line is being drawn in the sand. It's being carved into stone. And unlike the progressive narcissists who ruled through emotional manipulation, emotional blackmail, credible empty threats, and credible threats, Trump sets a deadline and he intends on keeping it. Now, if you got value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. 2 weeks. That is all that stands between Iran and consequences that they cannot imagine. It is going to rain fire. For decades, progressive narcissists and psychopaths played footsie with terror states, sent cash to killers, called it diplomacy, called it empathy. And when we tried to say something about it, oh, we're just xenophobic. Classic cluster B traits, grandiosity about transforming Iran, histrionic performances about peace while funding war, mostly peaceful peace. This is mostly peaceful peace. Kids in college think that they are the gods that they don't even believe in. It's like this weird mental gymnastics that has to take place in order for people to be so confused. No more. So here's your controversial question. Should America destroy Iran's nuclear facilities if they refuse Trump's ultimatum? Yes or no? Sound off. Blow up the comment section. Now, we support American strength. Get your next news gear from our shop below. Every purchase says America leads. Period. Now let's see what you have to say in the chat room. Let's bring it on down. We're bringing it home. How did we do tonight? Is everybody happy? Are we happy? Let's see. I had my final thought last week. Tom beat 420. Yeah, sometimes I feel like every thought I have is my final one. End the madness. I love the name. I love it too. Thanks, Sabrina. Kibbs Ellis. Ho, ho, ho. Millennium Man 75. Yes, happy. I do appreciate. Thank you. I do really, truly appreciate you guys sticking it out for us. It's been a great stream. Brandy 47. Thank you so much for that. Discord after the show. Jeremy Olson. I think I'm going to pop in. Now let's see. Trivia answer. Let's put our trivia question back up. Let's see what everybody got. Which president said, "We will extend a hand to you if you are willing to unclench your fists," to Iran, and then secretly sent them pallets of cash? We all know who it is, because not because of the pallets of cash part, but because of the weird, stupid platitude. If you unclench your fists. That's such an Obama-ism. Barack Obama sent Iran billions in cash while they built nuclear weapons. Trump sends ultimatums. All right, let's take it home. Patriots, what a show we've had today, week 21 of Trump's return, and America is winning on every single front. We started with one big, beautiful bill, $14,000 coming to your family, not promises, not studies, not DEI, cold, hard cash in your pocket by Independence Day. The establishment said it couldn't be done. They said tax cuts don't work. They said American prosperity was over. They were wrong, dead wrong. Trump's economic revolution isn't just about changing bank accounts. It's about changing lives. Now, when parents can afford groceries, when workers keep their overtime, when seniors keep their Social Security, that's not policy. That's patriotism in action. Then we expose the greatest constitutional crime in our history. The Biden Autopen Scandal isn't just about fake signatures. It's about commandeering the entire country. It's about staffers taking the wheel while we sit here and scurry around. For 4 years, unelected bureaucrats ran America while a confused old man shuffled through the White House. Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of the dead. They exhibited every trait of narcissistic personality disorder, the grandiosity, the thinking they could usurp democracy, the entitlement to believe they were above the law, the complete lack of empathy for the despicable treatment that a lot of us Americans received. The absolute projection and gaslighting, the lying, the deception. But the truth has a way of surfacing, and the reckoning is coming. Our border victory stunned the world. 0 illegals released, 0. From 117,000 under Biden to absolutely nothing under Trump. Nothing. Operation Showdown destroys gangs, seizes weapons, and saves lives. We watched sanctuary cities crumble and Democrats melt down. And the emotional tyrants who have weaponized our compassion and our charity are trying to destroy our sovereignty. They are finished with that. They are not doing that anymore. Law and order isn't just back, it's here to stay. The Make America Healthy Again revolution forced big food to surrender, and they're pulling toxins from our food because they know what is coming. RFK and Trump are ending the poisoning of our children. No more subsidizing sickness. No more Medicaid for the lazy or no more Happy Meals for illegal immigrants. No more turning food stamps into corporate welfare for poison peddlers. Real food, real health, real accountability. And finally, Iran faces Trump's red line, not like Obama's porous red line. 2 weeks to surrender their nuclear program or watch it burn. No more pallets of cash, no more appeasement, and no more weakness inviting aggression. Now, while progressives engage in histrionic performances about moral authority and xenophobia, Trump delivers moral clarity. Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, period. And to those who sent in super chats and rumble rants today, you are the heartbeat of this movement. Thank you so much. We're going to keep this thing moving. Share this show with everyone you know. Your support keeps the truth alive. And thank you for standing with us, for sharing this stream, for helping us bypass big tech censorship. And remember to hit our merch button, hit the shop button, shop.newsnetwork.com, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Every purchase is a declaration that you stand with the truth, freedom, and America first. Now remember, my name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi on the Raw feed. I always broadcast to you live from this safe space down here in Florida, where I'm free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And I bid you all a good night.